flexible. Thank you.
Hi, everybody, and thank you for joining. We began last week, chapter 44. Just a very quick overview. The rabbi wanted to help us achieve connection to God that is universal. Loving God should not be something that's esoteric and far removed from an ordinary person. In previous chapters, the rabbi spoke about two types of love. One termed Ahava Rabbah, great love, which is only given to few as a gift by God. The second is Ahavat Olam, a true deep love to God, but will take a very deep contemplation and a lot of hard work, and not necessarily easy. So now the rabbi in this chapter and the next chapter is going to assist us in developing love for God in a much easier way. And the rabbi is going to use three. Two in this chapter and the third one in chapter 45. We're going to put 45 aside. In chapter 44, and we started discussing the first one, is just like I love life. We need to understand that life equals God. And the rabbi began with an introduction. And the rabbi is quoting text. It fits very well. Anyone who is versed with the text, especially in the Hebrew, will appreciate it greatly because it's very well fit with the way Moshe describes relationship with God. Moshe tells the Jewish people, what is hidden in your heart is between you and God. But what is revealed, it's between us, our children, and future generations to serve God in action. Says the Rebbe that when it comes to love, developing love for God, it's hidden in my heart, meaning there are myriads and myriads of levels. It is not all of the same. Therefore, it's hidden. When I tell you I love God very much, I'm not sure that you will be able to understand deeply what it means. You experience love, and you assume to apply the same to me about me when I say I love God, but it's not the same. When it comes to action, there is an equalizer. There is nobody who can do it different than the others. If somebody tells you walk home and you are walking, you're doing the same thing. If someone say pray, drink 4 cups of wine, speak kindly, don't lie, and we keep those commandments, we are all equalizing. That's called revealed between me and God that everyone can see. So when it comes to serving God in action or speech, it is all equal and there is no levels in general. When it comes to emotions, no one would be equally to others. And to make it easier, I shared with you that the same is reflected when it comes to loving a spouse, children, parents, etc. When I say I love my wife, or a woman says I love my husband deeply, greatly, so very much, there is no way that I can tell for sure exactly the relationship or the emotions that they sense. It's impossible because it's internal. I cannot express it. But when it comes to action, if I told you I built a table, you know exactly what I did. Either you can do it or you cannot. But when it comes to emotion, you can try to develop similar emotion, but it's not going to be the same. Having said that, the rabbi is going to talk about, before that I have a story. The Arizal, which the Kabbalah we study is based on the Arizal interpretation to the Zohar, had many students. We call them the Cubs, because the Arizal, Rabbi Yitzchak Luria, that's the acronym Ari. Ari in Hebrew is lion. So the cubs are the babies of the lion. The cubs are the one. He never wrote anything. By the way, the Arizal died at a very young age. But all we have from the Arizal is from his students as they recorded it. We had one student by the name of Rabbi Moshe Al-Shich. Rabbi Moshe Al-Shich, his burial site is next to the Arizal in Tzfat on the mountain. Rabbi Moshe Al-Shich came to his master one day crying and saying that every time the master start teaching deep Kabbalah, he falls asleep. Sounds familiar, huh? But yeah. So, and he said he stood with his feet in cold water. I didn't know. The rabbi would explain a text in the Chumash, in the Torah, and says, and let me explain you in the Kabbalistic terminology, and the guy would start snoring. There was a man that every time the rabbi would deliver his sermon on Shabbat, he would fall asleep in the front seat. He would fall asleep. One time the rabbi just got up to the podium and the guy was already snoring. He didn't even start. He turned to the man afterwards and says, you didn't even wait for me to start speaking.
Yes.
And says, Rabbi, I trust you. I trust you.
When we were at the different temple, Rosh Hashanah, we're all sitting there, and there's a guy next to me, and I've told the story before, he's sleeping soundly, and the rabbi is talking and talking and talking, and then he says, now I'm going to start the sermon, and the guy says, oh no! I mean, it was...
Okay, let's continue. So, there was a man snoring in the middle of the sermon, and the rabbi turned to the president and says, go wake him up. And the president said, I'm sorry, you put him to sleep, you wake him up. You want another one?
That's enough.
They say, why in the Orthodox synagogues there is a mechitza and men and women are separately? Because they're afraid they're going to fall asleep. They're going to sleep. Okay. So back to the Rabbi Moshe Al-Shich.
Okay.
He says, Rabbi, every time, Dick, I'm going to mute you, okay? I know how much. So every time the rabbi would start talking about esoteric teaching, you'd fall asleep. So the rabbi said to him, don't worry. Your soul does not belong to the gate, to the section of Kabbalah. Your soul belongs to Drash. Drash, extrapolation of the Torah text, but not the secrets. And therefore, whenever I start teaching the secrets of the Torah, your soul cannot listen and falls asleep. And actually, Rabbi Moshe Al-Shich went and wrote a drash, a commentary to Torah called Torat Moshe, the Torah of Moshe, which explained the Torah in a very beautiful way. The Al-Shich, anyone who is serious about studying Torah, study with the Al-Shich. Rabbi Moshe Al-Shich, he lived at the 16th century. And he's the one, by the way, Rabbi Moshe El-Kabatz is the one who wrote Lecha Dodi. It was his body. They were the same group, the same class. So Rabbi Moshe Al-Shich was told by the Arizal, the reason he's falling asleep, it's not his fault. His soul does not belong to it. So when I say I develop love for my spouse or for my God, and someone else says he doesn't sense that, there is no fault, there is no blame, because perhaps I was raised in a loving home, so I experienced that and I know what love is, so I can apply it. Other people need to learn what it means, and they don't take it. It doesn't work so easy. And therefore, says the Rebbe, that's called hidden. Emotions are hidden. So when I get excited by a gift, by food, by sightseeing, and I wish my partner, my family would experience the same way, the rabbi says, don't expect that. You can share with them, but you cannot expect that the same experience you go through, they should have. I made myself clear. Now, it's common sense, but it's very, very important here for love. Says the Rebbe, after having said that, there is an easy way to evoke love. Why? Because there are two types of love. We're going to talk about the second one tonight in great details. But the first one is the love of life. Do I need to be trained to love to survive? The answer is no. Did my parents train me to love life? The answer is no. They trained me how to get dressed. They trained me how to respect. They trained me to tell the truth. They trained me to be on time. They trained me that if I don't study, I will be a failure. But they never trained me to want to live. To want to live is a natural, and I said there are extremes, and unfortunately last week we discussed it at great length. I don't want to go back there, because this is just a review of what to study. Usually, the idea, not usually, in a healthy setting, a human being strives to live. They will do whatever it takes. If I realize that life is God, then the more I love God, the more I love my life. I love myself. And that's why the rabbis share that there is a text in the Bible that says, I love you, my soul. In other words, when I love my soul, the prophet tells us, you love in God, because my soul is God. So just like I love life, if I love God, I will have life. The more I love God, the deeper my love for my life is. So we all love life. We all hope to live forever. We all hope to have a quality of life. We all hope to enjoy every day as if it's the greatest day of our life. Comes the Rebbe and says that this is what God is about. Remember that my soul is God. So therefore, the more I love God, the more I experience life. How do you experience life? With God is my soul, observing the Torah and Mitzvot. Action, when I keep kosher, when I speak the truth, when I celebrate Shabbat, I allow the soul, which is God, to express itself, because God said, that's what I like. Now, when you invite someone over and you are providing them with the food they like, the environment they enjoy, they will feel much more comfortable. That's all. That's the first one. So that's what we covered last week. Last week, we're going to just finish off a little bit from the Zohar. I want to go ahead and share with you about the second one. As the rabbis explained, the Rebbe's intent here, the love of life is not limitless. It has limitation. I love my life so long as it will give me life. But what if that love entails giving up my life? Then I will not do it, because I want to live. So I'll do whatever it takes to survive. But if an action is involved, doing something that will end my life, I'm not going to continue. There is another inborn natural love within us, which is called the love for children, or the children loves for their parents. That love knows no bounds. People are willing to give up their life for their parents. In other words, it goes farther than the first one. The love of life is as long as the outcome would be survival. The love of family members, close family member, has no boundaries. It will go for as long as I need to. So if it's about saving someone, we had, unfortunately, there are many cases. A couple of years ago, Chabad Rebbetzin, our baby, a 5-month-old baby, fell into the water. And she jumped. She didn't know how to swim. And she died, actually. The baby died and she died. I don't know if you remember, in Hawaii. Yeah. The rabbi in Hawaii, young mother of 5 or 6 children. They took a walk on deck, on a pier, and a wind came. The baby was in a crib. A wind or the wheels slipped in between the cracks, and the baby fell off. She jumped. There was no questions. You don't ask questions. There was a famous man, a minister, a Knesset member in Israel, who's needed a new lung. And he had a large family. I think he had 5 or 6 children. They were fighting who is going to give him the lung. And finally, they went to the rabbi. The oldest one says he's first. He has the right to honor his father more than the rest. The other children each claim that they want to. So the rabbi decided to take a lot, a raffle. And the winner was the lucky one to donate his lungs, because that's what we call a bond, a true bond that surpasses the limitations of life. Says the Rebbe, just like a person loves his family, God is part of who I am, and that's how I should love God. It will require some kind of contemplation, but a lot less than Ahavat Olam that we spoke about in previous chapters. Let's look in the text.
What
Page 672.
Is there a way to measure land?
That's the point. It's impossible. So somebody can tell me, or tell his spouse, I love you dearly. You don't know what they mean.
Yeah.
They cannot prove it.
with actions, but it doesn't measure how much.
Exactly.
It shows only that there's love, but
Right.
not
Right.
a number.
That's what the rabbi is talking about. So if I say the same is about intellectual, if I say I understand the question or I know the answer, I can explain, but it's not necessarily going to be experienced by another person the same way. In the emotion, it's to an extreme even. Likewise, I'm reading page 672. We are still in the first type, the love of life. Likewise, when he goes to sleep, at which time his life force is in a state of concealment, for sleep is 1/60th of death. Anybody heard that 1/60th of death is sleeping? Fire is 1/60th of the fiery hell. The fire of hell is 60 times hotter than the fire here on earth. He longs and yearns for his soul to be restored to him when he awakens from his sleep. When I go to sleep, I really want to make sure that I wake up again. My soul comes back. So do I long and yearn to draw within me the infinite light of the Blessed Ein Sof, the life of true life, through engaging in the study of the Torah when I awaken during the night from my sleep. For the Torah and the Holy One, blessed be He, are one and the same. So when I study Torah, I infuse my soul with more energy. Thus, the individual's love of God will encourage him in his Torah study, since he realizes that this will enable him to draw down the infinite light of the Ein Sof and become united with God. Just as creation is renewed continuously, as we studied many times, Torah too should be viewed every day as if it were new. So too, regarding the love and yearning of God for God, brought about through the study of Torah, he should experience this just as one yearns and desires for the full restoration of his vitality, a desire which is both revealed and powerful. But I always saying every night you go to sleep because you need to be revitalized. You need to be energized. It's not enough that I had energy this morning. At night I'm all tired and I want to be revitalized. I want to have a whole new recharging of the battery. My soul needs to be recharged. How do I recharge my soul? Studying Torah. As the Zohar says over there, out of love for the Holy One, blessed be He, a man should rise each night and exert himself in his service until the morning. So the Zohar said you wake up early in the morning, freshly awaken, and infuse your soul with energy. This then is the love expressed in the phrase, my soul, I desire you, the innate love that a Jew feels when he realizes that God is his true soul and source of life. This love must be revealed by pondering deeply and often how God is the source of all life, as will be explained later on in this chapter. Now the Rabbi is going to go to the second type of love, the love for a close family member, a child or a parent. A greater and more intense love than this, that is, than the love which results from realizing that God is one's true soul and life, a love which is likewise concealed in every soul of Israel as an inheritance from our ancestors, is that which is defined in Raya Mehemna. Raya Mehemna is a section of the Zohar in description of Moshe's divine service. Like a son who strives for the sake of his father and mother, whom he loves even more than his own body, soul, and spirit, sacrificing his life for his father and mother in order to redeem them from captivity. Now we can understand why when we turn to God we say Avinu Malkeinu, our Father, our King. There are two types of love. Natural love should be awakened within us. One is God is my Father, and the other one is God is my King. As a king, he is responsible for my life. He can take away my life. As a father, it's a bond that will make me so proud, so pass even the desire to live. Because a father or a child will be willing to sacrifice their life to save a parent or a child. This matter of service is not limited to Moshe alone. It is within the province of every Jew. For have we not all one Father? Didn't we have discussed in chapter 42 that we have a little bit of Moshe and God in everyone, and God is our Father. Just as Moshe possessed this love because God is his Father, so too every Jew can possess this love, for God is equally our Father. We are no different than Moshe. This level of love is more selfless than that described by the phrase, my soul, I desire you. The first one. For love which results from realizing that God is one's true life will only be as intense as a person's desire for life itself. It will not demand total self-sacrifice, which is the opposite of life. However, the love of a child for his parent, however, is not limited to his love for life. His parents' lives take precedence over his own, and he's ready to give his very life in order to save theirs. So this is a much deeper, because it's not limited to life. I'm not loving for the sake of life. I'm loving, period. And therefore the person is willing even to sacrifice their own life for the sake of a parent or other child.
Why does it say in previous page? It's redeeming from captivity.
The soul, God, is in captivity in my body. The body is in confinement. When do we let the soul out? When we study Torah, when we do mitzvot. That's what it does. So that's when I choose.
Father and mother.
Oh, the father and mother is different soul. If a father and mother are in danger, the child will be willing to do whatever it takes, even at the cost of their own life, to redeem them from captivity. Yeah, the famous story is Joseph. Yehuda comes to Joseph and says, give me Benjamin and I'm willing to be, even though it was more, it's a very slim chance that he would have made it alive, because slaves had no rights, no human rights. People can fathom today what it meant being a slave. Even, I don't want to go back to the South, etc. But slaves in those days, they were treated like possession. And if the master decides to get rid of them, that's it. There is no court of law. There is no judgment. So Judah is willing to put himself in danger so that the father should not die from pain. That's an example. We know there are many, many stories where parents stand before their children and vice versa. I should say that in our day and age, it's unfortunate, but it's very true. There are many, many soldiers who are willing to sacrifice their life for the sake of others. Just now, today, there was a young man who was killed in Lebanon last week. And the reason, he was the officer in charge of a unit entering a building. And they were afraid that the building has mines. So he, as one in charge, said, let me be the first one. He knew full well that he's taking a chance, but he wanted to make sure that no one else of his unit. And he saved 4 other soldiers. And had they entered together or they entered before, as he's in charge, he could have ordered them to go first. They wouldn't be around. So they are alive because of him. And it happens, unfortunately, in our day and age. You see the Jewish soul springing to action in this day and age when you go to Israel. That's why, despite all the pain and suffering that Israel is going through, and it's very painful, yet there is something that ignites the flames of the people, because they feel that these are very unique times where everyone can demonstrate their love for one another. In the media, openly, they will fight and tear each other apart. That's true. But when it comes to protecting one another, they would not just give the shirt off their back, they would put their life on the line. And it's not just they're talking about, this is actually the reality of life. And that's what makes them experience life in a very unique way. I want to share one more thing that the rabbi is going to go to. The rabbi is going to go to talk about how can you compare yourself to Moshe? And the rabbi is going to say that we just spoke about 2 types of love that are much easier down to earth. However, still, it's not so easy. And the Rebbe is giving us a very simple method. It's revolutionary, and I just shared that. I'm writing a write-up from the Bima at the Jewish News. The next column is my turn, and I just put it in today. The Straits of Hormuz, how are they called? Hormuz are a narrow space where majority of the world economy is passing through. And a little change over there, it's a bottleneck. Affects countries, civilians, the stock market galore. The dollar goes, the yen is going up and down. It's all from one little section in the universe. We live a million miles away. Who cares? Over there, as soon as they stop, there's transportation of ships. Now the oil goes up, there's revolution, there's demonstrations. Kabbalah explains that a human being has also those straits, and they are called the neck. The neck is the straits of Hormuz, because you have the brains. The brains knows full well what's right. It controls the entire body. Knows not to get addicted, knows to speak kindly, knows to not raise the voice, knows to be on time. Does it actually happen, action and emotions? Not always. How many times did I promise, next time I'll try again? I'm sorry, I'll put a lot of efforts. What's wrong? You know that it's wrong. You know you should have done or not done something. And the answer is, according to Kabbalah, between here and here, there is the straits of the neck. And the neck constrains the brain's desire or knowledge to bring it to action. Did you understand so far? How do I open up the straits? How do I widen the space? Voice. Where are the voice placed? The voice box. Here, right there. Says the Rebbe, and we're going to see it here. I put it, you're going to read it in the Jewish News in a couple of months. I'm not referring to Tanya, but that's what it means. The Rebbe says that if I talk about something, it will enforce my knowledge into my heart. Did you understand? So until now, the rabbi was talking, this is a major revolution because the rabbi is shifting. Until now, the rabbi would say that after action, after the acts, the heart will follow. If I say to someone, but I don't love you, we say to them, act in kindness. Be kind to them in action. It will awaken you to love them. I'm talking about a different story, about when the brain knows full well what's right. Don't eat sugar. Don't eat too late at night. But it's right there. I can't. The way to stop it is by speaking. You know what happens when you speak? You reinforce the idea against yourself. Therefore, I cannot underestimate the power of speech. Now, I can go on a limb here and talk about the power of speech forever. A human being is in Torah termed a speaker, even though animals speak too. But we, the power of speech, not only communicating our thoughts and our plans and our intellect to others, it also is able to control my heart's desire. So if I know this is bad for me, somebody is placing vodka here and it's bad for me, or wine, whatever it might be, I can, when I tell the person it's not healthy for me, therefore I know it's not good and I hope not to do it, what happens is it will enforce me to stay away from trouble, even if nobody listens. That's why when we pray to God, we use voice. You ask forgiveness, you thank God. That's why I shared on many occasions between spouses, the power of speech is extremely crucial. It will remove so many roadblocks and hurdles in the relationship, so long as they are speaking to one another. When I got engaged, the rabbi gave us a little talk. I don't know if they do it today. Today they have trained professionals. But the rabbi summons us 30, 40 yeshiva boys. We never, communicated with a strange opposite gender. He says, you need to know, just like there is a mitzvah to put on tefillin, there is a mitzvah to talk to your wife. You need to talk. Don't think it's a waste of time. And the best thing is, I'm sorry, I think my grandfather the night before asked me to speak to him, and he gave me a list of things. One of them, he says, you never leave the house without speaking to your wife. Saying good morning, how are you doing? Where are you going to be today? It doesn't matter what. There has to be, the power of speech is a glue that binds us. I'm going to go back to what the rabbi is going to talk. And that is, what we talked about perhaps takes a lot of contemplation, and it's not so easy. Says the Rabbi, first, you need to know that it exists within us. It's very hard to unearth it, but it's there. Number two, you have the power of speech. Talk about it. Speak it up. When you speak it out, it will come to the fore and it will impact you and be created. And that's what we call, as I share with you, the strait of the neck that stops between the brains and the heart. And within those straits, you have the key to remove those barriers. Let's continue. Now we'll see it in the text.
Small comment with this and social media, everything is texting and messaging, and people don't make phone calls. There's a lot less voice-to-voice communication,
And
which I think deteriorates relationships.
it destroys relationship.
Yeah, and
But you know what?
Understand the messenger.
But you know, thank God for Shabbat.
True.
I am home when dinner is ready. When I was raising the children 20 years ago, you'd go out, tell everybody dinner is ready. Today you text, dinner is ready. Dinner is being served now. I'm serious.
It is.
And everybody comes with their phone. And we don't talk. Come Shabbat, it's not there. So it avoids all of it. So if people will say, oh, it's restricting and it's challenging. There are many public figures who try that, and they say they will never go back. There was a non-Jew who decided for a year, a Jew, but very reformed, very liberal, to try Shabbat for a year, I think. And he says it's the greatest gift of God's to humanity. And if anyone, he says that it created a relationship with his wife and children he never imagined, never dreamt to have. Seriously, because of those charges that you're making. So I'm going back to the core, and that is speech, the power of speech. There is no substitute. If you think that the digital media or electronic media will make it faster and easier, I'm here to tell you, perhaps, but it takes away the power of speech. And although, we're reading on page 674, and although one may ask, who is the man and where is he who would dare presume in his heart to approach and attain even 1,000th part of the degree of love felt by Moshe, the faithful shepherd? How then do we say that every Jew can feel the same love of God that Moshe felt? Says the Rebbe, nevertheless, a minute portion and particle of his great goodness and light illuminates the community of Israel in each generation, as it is stated in the Tikkunim, that an emanation from him, from Moshe, is present in every generation to illuminate them. So I think I shared with you when we studied chapter 43, that within each one, 42, within each one there is a spark of Moshe, but in addition, there is one person who is chosen to be Moshe to inspire the generation. Every community has a Moshe to inspire people to connect to God. Since this luminous particle is found in all Jews, in all generations, it thus becomes possible for every Jew, through Moshe's goodness and light, to feel the love that he possesses as an inheritance from the patriarchs in a manner similar to that of Moshe. Says Rabbi, even though we're not going to be like Moshe, but to have a spark of Moshe, we can experience something similar to that. Only the glow from Moshe's soul is present in the souls of all Israel in a matter of great obscurity and concealment. But to bring forth this hidden love from its latency and concealment to a state of revelation, so that it will be manifest in his heart and mind, is not beyond reach, nor is it far off, but it is very close to you, in your mouth and heart. What does it mean in your mouth and heart? This is the text in the Torah. That is to say, it should be habitual with his tongue and voice to arouse the intention of his heart and mind. For the sound of one's voice arouses the devout concentration of heart and mind. And that's why when I pray with a sound, albeit a very minute, very low sound, so nobody else hears, but I do. When I study Torah, I study it not just reading with my eyes, I enunciate it with sound, because when you have sound, it reinforces it. So if there is emotions involved, it awakens those emotions and bring them up. Ali, are you following? No questions? So as to immerse his thought in the life of life, the blessed Ein Sof, for he is literally our true Father and the source of our life, and to awaken our love for him like the love of a son for his father. And when one accustoms himself to this continually, habit will become nature. It will create something by habit. So when I pray, even though my mind wanders off in a million places, but I utter the words, and some of them I say with a melody, sometimes it brings me back, reconnects, like an anchor, connects me to the words. In other words, if you use your mouth to speak about the love of God, what we contemplate, it will awaken my love to God, like a father to his son, or like I love life and God is my life. even if it appears to him at first sight that this is an illusion, and that in truth he does not possess this love for God, and thinking that he does is nothing less than deluding himself as to his true spiritual status, he need not be concerned. So the Rabbi, why? Because it is intrinsically the absolute truth, even without his own spiritual service, by virtue of the hidden love which his soul possesses for God. Says Rabbi, everybody has it. So it's not fake. There was the first Rabbi, the author of the Tanya, he had Hasidim. Somebody came and complained that the Hasidim are fakers. Oh, they pray as if they are big holy people, and they sing it, and they do the emotions as if they are very holy people, but they're just faking it. And the Rebbe says, really? They fake it? That's great. Because the Talmud teaches us that whenever a person fakes, he will not die until it will befall him, until it will actually happen to him. So by faking it, it will make sure God will make it for them to happen.
There's a little expression, fake it till you make it.
Fake it till you make
Exactly.
it.
I was thinking about that.
So the story of the Talmud is that if someone is faking it that he's a poor man, he's begging. He says, I have nothing, I've lost this. So the Torah tells us, if you fake it, it will happen in a negative way. The same as someone is faking it that he's hard of hearing, or he's missing a limb, and it's not true, or that he has lost his wife, or his children are not well. We are very careful with that. Why? Because if you fake it, it will actually happen to you. When fake it till you make it is the other way. Fake it in a positive way till you actually reach that point, which is growing up, moving up.
It's in work setting, like, you don't know what you're doing, just make it till you make it,
Okay,
but it works.
so what the Rebbe says, if they fake it, they will not die before they actually reach that goal, and therefore it's a blessing for me to hear that. Says the Rebbe, continue, but the benefit derived from the spiritual service through which he effects his emergence into the open is that he should translate it into action, and when his love is in a state of concealment, it cannot affect his action. Says Rabbi, if you fake it, at least it will cause you to act. It will make you do good and make you serve God, and that alone is great. This means being occupied with the Torah and mitzvot, which he studies and performs as a result of it, that is a result of revealing his love, this love, with the intention of causing gratification to God, like a son serving his father, who does so in order to cause him gratification. Says the Rebbe, since the revelation of this love leads in fact to increased performance, he should not be troubled by the fact that he may be deluding himself in thinking that he possesses this love when in actuality he does not, particularly since his soul does truly love God. Concerning this, it was said that a good thought is joined by the Holy One, blessed be he, to a deed, providing it with the wings to soar upward, as explained earlier in chapter 16. What the rabbi is saying, or the sages tell us, that every time I have a good desire, God will make it happen. If I will say, I'm going to give tzedakah, I'm going to study Torah, I'm going to be kind, God will God will consider it as if action was happening. According to Kabbalah, God will attach wings to it. Remember the wings that allow the mitzvah to soar? God says, if you have a good desire and it's truly from the heart, even if it did not come into reality, that you didn't do it. In God's eyes, he will give it wings and allow it to soar as another action. In other words, even when we fake it, as from God's perspective, as long as truly trying, that counts as doing it right. A good thought is joined to deed. Cannot simply mean that when one thinks about doing a good deed and then, through no fault of his own, is unable to do it, God considers as if he had actually done it. For if this was so, the expression should be a good thought is considered by God as an actual deed. Rather, the term joined to indicates that the deed was actually done, but that the thought and deed were unconnected. God, in his goodness, therefore, connects the thought and the deed. What the rabbi is saying is we're talking about someone who desired to do something, but then he forgot all about it and he did it. There's no connection between the desire and the actual, and God will bring it together. When a love of God is revealed within one's heart, there is an actual connection between the thought and the deed, for the revealed love adds vitality to the performance of the deed. However, when love of God is not revealed in one's heart and is limited to one's mind, it is considered to be a good thought that is not connected to a deed. Thus, when one understands that something ought to be done, but he has no love for it, then the deed will be performed without fervor. It is therefore necessary for God to connect the good thought with the deed, thereby ensuring that the good thought, the love and fear of God in his mind, will elevate the Torah and mitzvot which results from it to the world and level of the good thought. I hope you understood that. What the rabbi is saying is, sometimes I have a desire to love God, and the straits of the neck stops me from feeling it. And then I did it because I realized it's the right thing to do. God will consider my thought as if it's emotions, as love and fear, and will create the wings that love and fear create. The gratification he provides, God, is akin by way of illustration used earlier to the joy of a king whose son returns to him after liberation from captivity. When the soul, God's child, is clothed in the body and animal soul, it is in a state of captivity. Through Torah and mitzvot, it is liberated from this captivity and is joined with God. This causes him a joy similar to that experienced by the mortal king in the analogy. Or God's gratification may be from the fact that it has been made possible for him to have a habitation among mortals. As already mentioned, God wants to have a house, a dwelling, and I'm building a dwelling. Even if I did not do it with the emotions, but with the intellect, God will consider it as if I had the emotions involved. Thus, the love which is like a son who strives for the sake of his father can be revealed by habituating oneself with the tongue and voice to arouse the intention of heart and mind. The Alter Rebbe soon goes on to explain that the love of my soul, I desire you, may also be revealed and awakened through habitually speaking about it when one does so in a manner where the heart will feel that God is his true life, the life of life. Says the Rebbe. So we're going to keep going and reading because this is the rabbi is expressing deeper the same ideas that we spoke about, and that is we have the ability to awaken this type of love, either the life for life and my soul is God, or through the similar between the love that exists between father and son is God, my father. And even if that love is not awakened and I'm faking it, says the Rebbe, speak about it. If you speak about it, it will enforce it on the heart. Even if you did not, and you just contemplate it, you know it's the right thing to do, and you acted upon it, God will consider the intellectual thought of the right thing to do and turn it into an emotional wings that will allow the mitzvah to soar, not remain in this world devoid because it had no emotions. And that's the rabbi continues about that same point. Even in regard to the above mentioned love of the category of my soul, I desire you, it is readily possible to bring it out of its concealment into the open through constant practice with mouth and heart in full accord, so that one's heart should feel what his mouth utters about God's being his true life. If you keep speaking and speaking and speaking about it, it will bring it down to earth, to the heart. However, even if he cannot bring it, there's love into a revealed state in his heart, nevertheless, he can occupy himself because of this love in the Torah and mitzvot for their own sake, through portraying the idea of this love in his mind, and a good thought is united by God. As we spoke before, God will create the wings even if he did not have. And we're going to stop right here and continue next week, hopefully, to finish the chapter. The rabbi is going to talk about those two, how they elevate the deeds into where they're supposed to. Thank you very much. Good night, everybody.
Did you already get